What's up, NBA fan? What's up, all sports fans? This your boy JB, host of the Behind the Bench podcast, network, and channel. I want to give a shout out to the rest of the crew: Shad, Kelvin, Jermaine, KB Film Room, Big Dog Talk Sports. That's right. For everyone who's tuning in, we hope that you support Behind the Bench, become a subscriber, and help make this show the best that it can be. And I want to get right down to it. You know, I have not talked about the Los Angeles Lakers over the recent week or so. Well, I'll say 2 weeks. And I really haven't talked about the original young core members of this organization who were drafted to lead them into the future. I haven't really said anything. And I know it's years after the fact, but it still resonates. And lo and behold, at the start of my day, I come across this article. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it was meant to be. So I said, well, let me speak on this and do a video for today. Now, when you know your team, you know your team. When you know your squad, you know your squad. And when you know your players, you know your players. Let me start off by saying that. So I come across this article featuring Julius Randle. Julius Randle recently did an interview, I guess on someone's show in New York. And we know he was trying to recover from that shoulder tear injury he suffered a couple months ago. So it turns out, and like I said, when you know your player, you know your player. And see, before all this started, when the Lakers decided to bring the ultimate stack the decker and super teamer, before they brought him on board, as a lifelong Laker fan, see, one thing about it is the same way in the same fervor that I supported Showtime Lakers in the 80s, I did the same thing when Showtime ended in the early 90s and the franchise started over again, drafting Nick Van Exel out of the University of Cincinnati, drafted Eddie Jones out of the University of Temple, drafted George Lynch out of the University of North Carolina, who had just won a national championship for the Tar Heels, and then drafted Anthony Peeler from the University of Missouri. And he still had young veterans, Eldon Campbell and Vlade Divac from Yugoslavia. And I believe Eldon Campbell went to the University of, either went to UConn or Clemson. So I had the same excitement about those Lakers. And then, of course, when he brought in Kobe Bean Bryant and Derek Fisher. And see, the thing about it is now the Lakers did sign Shaq the summer of 1996. But in the grand scheme of things, you're always going to, well, historically, you tend to have a more natural affinity for drafted players than you do anybody else. Players who you sign in free agency, as well as players that you trade for. Because psychologically, you know that a drafted player was individually selected by the franchise to represent it for the distant future. That's the goal, especially when you start talking about a top player, you know, drafted in the first, like, you know, high in the first round. So, and then later on, after the Lakers three-peated with Kobe and Shaq and Kobe, however you want to put it. And when Shaq got traded to Miami, then the franchise had to start rebuilding around Kobe Bryant. They drafted Andrew Bynum, Sasha Vujacic, Jordan Farmore. They had drafted Luke Walton. As a rookie the same year that they went to the finals in 2004. So I was excited about those players. See, nothing has changed. Now, don't get me wrong. Yeah, I was excited when we got Shaq. But the key was Kobe. That's the reason that's what won Shaq over. And the reason he decided to sign with the Lakers, because he saw the workout video of Kobe Bryant that was featured by Jerry West. See, Jerry West didn't have to finagle. He didn't have to, play the dozens. He didn't have to play the role. He didn't have to try to buddy up. He showed a workout video of Kobe Bryant, and that's what sealed the deal. So, when the Lakers' most recent championship run from 2009-2010, and once the trade for Chris Paul was blocked in 2011, and then Kobe suffered the Achilles injury that practically ended his career in 2013, the Lakers had to start over again. And the prime player where that effort began was when they drafted Julius Randle in 2014, the 7th overall pick from the University of Kentucky. And they said he was kind of a tweener because he was only like 6'8" or whatnot. So you didn't know if he was better suited to play small forward or power forward. So a lot of time when you drafting players like that, or especially one and done players, it may take some time before they actually, grow into their game. And remember, his first ever NBA game as a rookie, his debut, he broke his leg and missed the entire season. So what turned out to be his second season was actually his first season to play. And what turned out to be his third season turned out to be his second season to play. And what turned out to be his final season representing the purple and gold was actually his third season to play. And during that 2017-2018 campaign, he was inserted back into the starting lineup. And then boom, voila, he found his game and started averaging 20 and 10. Mind you, he's left-handed. And I remember after that season ended, where the Lakers, the young core-driven Lakers, did improve by 9-10 games from the previous year, I didn't even notice because it became so commonplace to see him play in an era where fans get disgruntled about players missing, a game after game after game. In this era of so-called load management, Julius Randle played all 82 basketball games for this franchise. He did everything that the Lakers asked him to do. Arrive at training camp in the best shape of your career to date, and that's exactly what he did. Be the emotional leader for the rest of the young core members. That's what he did. Play your best basketball to date, and that's what he did. And you can tell that he wanted to represent this franchise going into the future. You can tell, it's like I said, when you know your squad, you know your squad. Because remember, he was in the last year of his rookie deal, and he played all 82 games. As a matter of fact, he's the last key player, prime player, top player to do so. Even in this win now mode that the Lakers have been in since the summer of 18, since they brought the ultimate super teamer to the franchise. I don't even need to say his name. So when he was up for free agency, well, it was known he wanted to remain a Laker. It wasn't even a question. And how was he rewarded? He was discarded, man. And that was the beginning of, in my view, based on how things have evolved since then, that was the beginning of the heart being ripped out of this franchise. Because no matter who they've rolled up in here over the past 6 seasons, even trading for, making it that extreme trade for Anthony Davis, and then 2 years later trading for Westbrook, 2 superstars, 2 top 75 players, they can't replace the soul of the team. And what I mean by that is the Lakers were in a state where it had to start over again and reestablish itself as a franchise after the late, great Kobe Bryant retired from professional basketball in 2016. So the torch was being passed from the legendary figure of the franchise to a young core member who wanted to represent the franchise going into the future. See, this is heavy, man. This is heavy. And when Julius Randle was up for free agency, he wasn't trying to break the bank. He was willing to work with the Lakers. He didn't want $20 million a year. I don't need to go into the exact figures because it's not like I'm trying to count the dollars, but I'm just trying to say he wanted to be a Laker to such a degree where, honestly, he was probably willing to take less than what his value was to remain with the team. And he was let go. And you know that was a punch in the gut because you can just look at somebody and you can tell when they're bothered. Because he's sitting there like, wait, I played all 82 games. I was the emotional leader of the team. I had this connection with Kobe Bryant, which he speaks on all the time. They had this brothership together. And all that was curtailed and disrupted summer 2018. And eventually all the members of the original young core were dispersed across the NBA. When I mean dispersed, I mean dispersed. All across the land. And it's been very disheartening to watch this. And I know my take on it may not be commonplace. And I get that. But that don't mean that it's not appropriate. Because Julius Randle recently did an interview where he said he wanted to be a Laker for life. Just like Kobe Bryant. I'm going to repeat that again. He said he wanted to be a Laker for life. When a player has that type of mindset, you cannot let that type of player go. This ain't about GOAT talk. Now, I know a lot of people out there going to say, and I get it, Anthony Davis is a better player. He's more talented and whatnot. I get that. And he's played in the league longer. But I tell you this, since Randle has been in New York, signed with the Knicks, he led that team to the playoffs for the first time since like 2015, during prime Carmelo Anthony years. That was like a 6-7 year gap of missing the playoffs. And he led that franchise to the playoffs for the first time since prime Melo. And this is not a knock on Anthony Davis, because Anthony Davis is a tremendous basketball player. But the problem is, whenever they feel he's being inconsistent and has a bad game, well, there's talks of people wanting him to be traded. Well, you didn't have that problem with Julius Randle because he was our real player. And he broke through and started averaging 20 and 10. And when he was forced to go elsewhere, he signed a 2-year deal with the New Orleans Pelicans, ironically to play alongside Anthony Davis, which turned out to be AD's last year down there in New Orleans. But at the beginning of the 2018-2019 season, prior to that training camp, well, many insiders predicted that Anthony Davis and Julius Randle can boast the most talented front court duo in the league. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, so Julius Randle go down there in New Orleans. He wound up playing 1 year, but that 1 year he averaged 22 and 9. And with all that disarray going on with AD, all of a sudden asking to be traded and eventually and predictably be traded to the Lakers to play with that guy. Well, Julius Randle was left to represent the franchise that he had no business be playing for, along with Drew Holiday at the time, and averaged 22 and 9. But he had to take a lesser deal to reestablish himself as a player when he had no business being let go to begin with. And then he eventually signs with the New York Knicks. And then like 2 years later, he was offered an extension to continue playing for the franchise. And really, since he's been there, he's been averaging 24 points, 10 rebounds, 6+ assists a game. And he was the first player since Larry Bird to average those figures while shooting 80% from the free throw line and 40% from three. The first player since Larry Bird. And if you watch Julius Randle play, and I'm not saying he's better than Larry Bird career-wise, but the way he played, the pace at which he played, his style of play, it reminds you of Larry Bird. So it's not a surprise that he became the first player since Larry Bird to achieve that level of production. He won Most Improved Player. He's been all NBA selection. I mean, and he's been durable. Now, he suffered some freak injuries over the past year during the playoffs when the Knicks faced the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I believe a player of the Cavaliers stepped on Julius Randle's foot in a very awkward position and caused him to suffer a severe sprain, which he needed surgery for. And then another injury this year where I believe he made contact with an opponent during the game and he separated his shoulder. But outside of that, the man's been durable. You can pencil him in. But if you look at that, and when Randle goes up against Anthony Davis, they play each other to a standstill. And you think about it, man, and every time he returns to LA to play in Staples Arena, or now what is called Crypto, he brings his best game. And there's been a couple of times where he's outplayed Anthony Davis. And it's been more physical. See, that what happened to that young core, it ripped their heart out. Now he's teammates again with Josh Hart, who was traded to the Knicks midseason last year from the Portland Trailblazers. And Josh Hart's been a steady presence for the New York Knicks and helped them win games with Brunson and Randle and OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson out of the lineup, trying to recover from injury. And Josh Hart, he's in his prime, and when he was drafted, the scouting report on him was, first of all, he was coming off a national championship with University of Villanova, and the scouting report on him was elite rebounder. And pound for pound, he's been proven for years that he's the best rebounder in the NBA. But to little or no regard, he was traded by the Lakers. And I remember when Josh Hart was traded, he posted an emoji on social media with a tear in his eye. See, that devastated that young core. That devastated him. Brandon Ingram, I remember when he was traded and he was introduced to the New Orleans Pelicans, he was just sitting there, man. He was just like in a daze, man. He looked just like depressed, man. See, when you do that to young players, and then they represented an all-time story franchise, man, to me, you can't do that. You can't do that. But they've shown tremendous character, man. Tremendous character. And they continue to motion on, man. And they showing their value. And if Julius Randle would have got the opportunity to truly represent this franchise, he'd be a better player now for the Lakers than he is where he's currently representing in New York. Brandon Ingram would be a better player for the Lakers than he is right now in New Orleans. Kyle Kuzma has no business playing for the Washington Wizards, and it's not a knock on the Wizard organization, but I'm just saying he had no business being traded there. But that guy, the ultimate super teamer, he wanted another superstar. Thus, they traded for Russell Westbrook, and he was gone 18 months later. And I just think about, man, if we didn't go down this path darn near to the point of no return, and we truly built around that young core, and you constantly drafting talent to the team where you don't run out of talent, where you have to shuffle players in and out every year, where this franchise be at right now? And the trade-off is enormous. It's enormous, man. But Julius Randle, to no surprise, he revealed recently that he wanted to be a Laker for life. That's the vibe that he always gave when I watched him play. Always. He was the leader. The torch was being passed down to him and eventually the rest of that young core after Kobe Bryant retired. Now, all that connection, see, to me, the history is no more. In terms of what made you great, now the Lakers are operating from a sense of immediacy rather than a true identity. Like, you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder. Man, they in first place. They tied for first with the Denver Nuggets. And they exceeding expectations because they didn't sell themselves short. They didn't sell themselves short, and they have an abundant future for themselves that will carry on beyond this decade. This is just the beginning for their franchise. They invested in their future. They invested in their young players. They invested in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They invested in Jalen Williams. They invested in Josh Giddey. They invested in Chet Holmgren. They invested in Luguentz Dort. Look at them right now. The Denver Nuggets invested in their young talent. They invested in Nikola Jokic drafted in the second round. They invested in Jamal Murray. They invested in Michael Porter Jr. They invested in the young talent they bringing in right now. From last year and this year. And they tied for first, the defending champions, man. They prime. And if they win a second championship under Nikola Jokic, that's all you can ask for, man. That's all you can ask in this era of superstars joining forces, team hopping, organizations fucking over the road and trading their future off, for a win-out scenario when only one team is going to win every year. See, that's a bad, if you really think about it, that's a bad way to think. There's 30 teams in the NBA, only one team's gonna win every year, and you're willing to roll the dice like that. But when fans try to justify by bringing up that bubble, man, that bubble is distant memory, and there's so many questions and innuendo around that bubble, and considering what the team has been like since, they've been hovering around the playoff seed since all that started in 2021. They've been a play-in team. But you're supposed to have the generational player and the proverbial GOAT. And you hovering around 500. The trade-off has been tremendous. But this is why I represent that young core the way that I do. And it's because of the way they represented the franchise. They was willing to rep the franchise when nobody else would. The guy that they brought to the team in summer 2018, would he be willing to represent the franchise in the down period? Heck no. He'd be gone to yesterday. He'd be gone. They was representing the franchise, the original young core, like Kobe represented the franchise after the down period after Shaq was traded. And that's why Kobe said, and I ended with this, after he played his last game of his professional basketball career, more than the championship years, I'm more proud of the down years because we didn't run. So when we start winning those championships again, we did it the right way. And that mentality was instilled in that young core. It was instilled in that young core. And that was all eschewed and given up. And now the Lakers are just winging it. If this roster don't work out this year, it's going to be the same thing next year. They're going to be calling for trades as soon as the season over, trying to sign more free agents, but the well is already run dry. This is what happens when you sell yourself short. This is what happens when you hold one of your own to such a low level consideration, and you essentially kick them out the door. For a player who played all 82 games for your franchise, led your franchise, improved your franchise, and wanted to be a Laker for life like Kobe Bean Bryant. And that was Julius Randle. And you knew if he had that mentality, that means Kyle Kuzma had that mentality. That means Brandon Ingram had that mentality. That means Lonzo Ball, and I get it, I know Lonzo Ball's been hurt, but at the time, you know, when he was drafted, he had that mentality. Ivica Zubac was so confused by their trade to the Clippers. He still don't know why he was traded to this day. And the Clippers undervalue him overall because his original team undervalued him. Same thing goes with Josh Hart. Jordan Clarkson had that same mentality. Actually, he had the mama mentality as a sixth man. He coming there, he's shooting. Putting pressure on the defense. Whether he hit or miss, he's shooting. Larry Nance recently gave an interview during a post game, and Larry Nance said, matter of fact, let me see if I can pull it up. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up. And I'll end it with Larry. I'm gonna end it with Larry Nance's words. Give me 1 second. It may take a minute. I'm gonna pull this up. See, this is huge. This is huge. You never sell your own short. You never do that. Because it's going to trickle down to the rest of the organization. It's going to trickle down. It's going to trickle down. I'm trying to pull it up right now. This is what he said after a post game. Because Larry Nance Jr. Is teammates of Brandon Ingram down there in New Orleans. And that's one of the reason I believe they brought Larry Nance Jr. to the team, because he do have a history with Brandon Ingram as original Young Corps member. So give me 1 second. I'm finna pull this up. I just want to play it. This is heavy.
Another dominant.
Amen. I'm finna set this up. In a minute.
Players is really, really something that we appreciate in that locker room.
Here it comes.
What are the ways you can tell Zion is just really locked in right now?
He's got his headphones in. I'm sure he's listening to and again, to his credit, he's come out and handled business.
Here it comes.
Yeah, you guys matched your win total from last season.
Here it comes.
14 to go. I mean, what did you just think about the steady progression this team?
Here it comes, right here.
You and CJ came here a couple years ago.
This is how you build a winning franchise. It doesn't happen. Those franchises that just go from low wins to 60 wins. That's not sustainable. You build a successful franchise, an successful roster, successful team by, steady growing, steady improving, keeping the core together, and really learning to play with and alongside each other. That's what Denver did. That's what Milwaukee had done. That's what Golden State. Like teams, you build. You start slow and you build, and the fact that we've gone from, I should say, they went from 1-12 3 years ago to where we're at now is a testament to Willie, testament to Griff, Swin, Trage, Bryce, B.I.Z. Everybody has been here along the way. They're doing this the right way, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
So that says it all right there. He said, this is how you build a team. See, what's going on with the Pelicans right now would have been the Lakers. And probably at a more accelerated rate because you had drafted so much talent over a 4-year period. To a greater degree than what the Pelicans have been doing. And what did he say? This is what teams like Denver been doing, who won a championship. This is what teams like Milwaukee been doing. They won a championship. Or what Golden State did in retooling and rebuilding with young players. And they returned back to the top within 2 years with their cornerstone players, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. See, he said the teams that go from the bottom of 60 wins, that's not sustainable. So what he's saying is, when you mortgage your future off like that, and you throw all your chips in the middle of the table for 1 year, well, that's essentially what you're going to get is 1 year. See, and you're going to be scrambling every year. So basically what he's saying is, he wanted to be a Laker. See, all them young men that they drafted wanted to be Lakers and was proud to wear their uniform. And that's what it seemed like a lot of fans of the franchise don't understand. They was proud to wear that. And I can tell. I watched them. They weren't loafing. They weren't selling us short. They weren't lollygagging around. They weren't there just to collect a check. No, they wanted to be Los Angeles Lakers. And this is why I roll with them to this day. And if one of those original members or in position to contribute to a team winning a championship, I'm happy, man. I'm happy. Because I can only imagine what they would be like together, and you bring in the right star player to anchor them and to provide their leadership for them to grow and take that next step. See, where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And teams like Denver, Oklahoma City, Sacramento, the New Orleans Pelicans, they adopted the blueprint that the Lakers was trying to establish up until 2018 before they changed course and went all in. And they've been selling themselves short every year, man. So I just wanted to throw that out there, man. I always knew that about Julius Randle. I always felt that. That was my intuition, that Julius Randle was so, motivated to represent this franchise to where he said he wanted to be a Laker for life, just like Kobe Bean Bryant. That's heavy, man. That means a lot to me, So if he was to help the Knicks vie for a championship one day, it'd be amazing. So I just wanted to drop that. And until next time, this is JB for BTB Behind the Bench.